Welcome back to Marketing Champions here on Daily Ad Brief. I'm Howard Walpuff, your host. Again, we're talking about marketing with marketing experts from around the country. Today, we're in Michigan with Melih Oztalay. It's SmartFinds Marketing. And Melih, thank you for joining us today.
Howard, it's great to be on your show. Glad I could join.
And we're happy to have you. And you have a real vast experience in marketing. I'd love to know how you got started in the industry in the first place.
Well, our business actually was in traditional marketing, going back to the late 1980s. So the corporation was founded in 1987. In 1994, I started off the Internet Group. That was our first entrance into, we had 14.4 modems, we had Yahoo, Netscape. It was back in those days. And as the 1990s evolved, we ended up having three different groups within our company. So we had the traditional marketing and advertising, mostly advertising. We had our ISP group, and then we also had our our website or website marketing group that started back in those days. Eventually, we sold off the ISP division in 2002. And then in 2004, we went 100% digital, especially being in the Detroit metro area where there's a dime a dozen marketing companies and advertising agencies. We got the largest agencies, we got the largest car companies. As you can imagine, we got to the point where there's just less and less budget going towards traditional marketing. So we pushed off into 100% digital. And we've been in digital for now, what does it come down to? 17 years. We're going on to 18 years next year.
So you really were a trailblazer getting into the game when the game was starting with digital and internet and the web. That must have been very exciting and really interesting terrain, especially looking back all this time.
It was. What was interesting is I had a friend of mine who used to work at Sun Microsystems at the time, and he invited me down to their Southfield office, which is where they were back then. And he goes, you got to take a look at this. And he opened up Netscape, he opened up Yahoo, we're poking around, doing this, that, and the other thing. And it was just one of those things where the light bulb went off. And it's like, okay, we got to figure out where we start. So that's what we did.
But it's fantastic that you got that little sneak peek in the back while everyone else was just seeing. If you were lucky, you were able to get that browser to finally access on AOL. And then you're able to search the internet like everyone was talking about. So it's a really different world that we're dealing with right now.
I agree. And you hit the nail on the head. I mean, back then it was CompuServe, it was AOL. Especially AOL was kind of the big deal back in those days. And so, and never mind the fact that trying to get your 14.4 modem connected to the internet, that was its own problem. And so, it was, I called the 1990s the wild, wild west of the internet.
And yet it seems things were so much simpler than they are now, because now you have so many different outlets to use and people are on. So you have to figure out exactly where your audience is. Where are you directing your clients at this point to really get their messages to resonate?
Well, as you can imagine, times have changed a lot. And just like you said, back then it was different. Today it's different. I mean, heck, it was different when Google went public in 2004. And they pretty much changed the landscape when it comes to marketing on the web. Yes, search engine optimization was, an element of what needed to be done. But then as time has evolved, there's more factors that go into it. And so I think the thing that a lot of businesses need to understand, and they don't like to hear this, unfortunately, but it's called omnichannel marketing or multi-channel marketing. It is not about having your marketing efforts in one area because you really don't know where your target audience is. I mean, yes, if you're in B2B, you have a decent 80% chance that you're going to find them on LinkedIn. And if you're B2C, you're again, same scenario, you can find them on Facebook. But that doesn't mean that they're not elsewhere, like your TikToks, for example, and your Twitters and a variety of other social channels that are out there. But it's all about social media marketing. It's also about social media advertising. So the omni-channel marketing, or what some people are also calling multi-channel marketing, is the approach that needs to be taken. But it is difficult for a lot of business to be able to be nimble enough to up and run to a new, let's say, new website or a new community when the market keeps moving around, and they tend to move around very quickly. So if you're in the B2C space, you're going to have that's the direction you have to go. And it's not easy because the landscape changes, which is, if you don't mind, I'm going to throw this out there for you. But this is where my 4A's of digital marketing comes into play. So you have to anticipate change. You need to accept change, which is where a lot of businesses have a difficult problem. Then you need to adapt to the changes and finally adopt the changes. But it is a changing world, and it's a changing world that is nonstop. You just have to come to grips with the fact that this is a never-ending changing world, and it's a never-ending marketing budget. You don't get to stop because that's when your competition moves ahead of you.
These are really key terms and really strong statements. Obviously, from the experience you have within this industry, you really have seen the history of the internet evolve and see the successes and challenges that companies have had. What's the one thing you really take from all this experience that really strikes you that someone should be aware of when launching out on digital marketing right now?
They need to put a decent budget in place. That's the reality. I can tell you that, if you're a small to mid-sized business, for example, or let's just call small business, anything under $5,000 a month really is a difficult proposition because you have a lot of competition. If we go back 40 years ago, your competition was in your local area. That's one level of competition. This time around, your competition is worldwide. It's not just nationwide, it's worldwide. And so having small budgets and thinking you can get by doing this at $100 a month, using your mass production marketing channels, it doesn't really work. And this is where I think a lot of businesses have a difficult time. The second thing I'm going to add to that is the fact that whatever your budget is, pick a budget, but stick to it and don't stop because this has no endpoint.
It is, both of those are really incredibly valuable. Knowing from my experience in radio, those that tried it for like a month and then they didn't see the results because you don't see the results in a month. Exactly. You need to see it over the course of time and not stopping and having a set budget. So it's really, and I appreciate you sharing that. That really gives some great insight to small businesses who are watching and have to understand that the $5 a day budget is not going to do it. You really have to invest to then grow your revenue. So thank you so much for joining us today and really sharing your great years of wisdom with us.
Howard, it was great to be on the show. Thank you very much.
And thank you all for joining us as well. When I talk about speaking to marketing experts from around the country, today really is a day that I'm going to put an exclamation point at the end, because here is someone who has experienced the lifetime of the internet and internet marketing. When we joke about CompuServe and AOL, that was it. Getting your sound to click out of the modem was very valuable to even get onto the internet. So finding agencies like SmartFinds Marketing to really guide you through the process is so incredibly important. You can learn so much more about them here on Daily Ad Brief. But go out, have a great rest of today, and I'll see you next time on Marketing Champions.
Simplify presents Addressable CTV, combining the power of TV with the targeting and attribution of digital. Simplify's Addressable CTV delivers massive reach with the ability to scale without sacrificing precision. TV buyers can generate incremental reach with household-level targeting, frequency controls, reporting, and insights. To learn more about Simplify's Addressable CTV and what it can do for your clients, visit simply.fi.